What does UFO whistleblower David Grush and this airplane have in common? Former Vice President Dick Cheney. That's right. It's a crazy story, y'all. Stick with me. I'll explain. Let's dive in. Now, it all started when I saw this clip of Elon Musk talking to Tucker Carlson.
When you say, what are the aliens? What do you mean?
Where are the aliens? Oh. Like, why don't we see them? A lot of people think we see aliens, but I've not seen any evidence of aliens. We've got 6,000 satellites in orbit, and not once have we had to maneuver around an alien spacecraft.
Right. But on this Earth, the U.S. military has had to do a lot of maneuvering around objects they can't explain.
Well, unidentified flying objects is one thing, but there's always a bunch of classified programs that are underway of new aircraft and new missiles and things. So that are classified even within the military. So it's only if you have the top secret compartmented clearance, would you know about this new program? So then some pilot sees something moving fast and says, "Hey, I saw a UFO." I'm like, "Yeah, that was actually a new weapons program, but we can't tell you that." But you can guarantee that the split second I see any evidence of aliens, I will immediately post that on the X platform. And it'll probably be our #1 post of all time.
That'll be your biggest day,
yes,
for sure.
And then after seeing that clip, I saw this Instagram post. And it read, amateur photographer Jeff Templin captured 2 photos of an unknown triangular-shaped aircraft flying over Wichita, Kansas. The craft does not match any official model of aircraft in use by the U.S. Air Force, but does resemble the U.S. Navy's A-12 Avengers II aircraft, a project that was canceled in 1991. Canceled? What the? So, why am I bringing all of this up, and what does Dick Cheney and David Grush have to do with any of this? Well, it turns out that Dick Cheney was responsible for canceling this Avengers aircraft, right? This A-12 Avengers II aircraft. And what did David Grush say about former Vice President Dick Cheney? Here's a clip of journalist Walter Kern, who interviewed David Grush, talking about an off-the-record comment that David Grush made to him when he asked this important question to David. Take a look.
I'll tell you, I don't think it's a tale out of school, but it's kind of. I talked to a high-level UFO whistleblower last year, and I said to him,
David
who,
Grush,
among all the people in society, is keeping this secret? Who sits atop the pyramid of classified information about UFOs? And I thought he was going to say something strange, like the Grand Mason of the Scottish Rite Lodge, or Prince Charles, or the Mossad. But he said, Dick Cheney.
Oh my goodness. Why does that not surprise me, though? Because of course he would be. Right?
So you have David Grush, right? UFO whistleblower, testifying before Congress about UFO crash retrieval programs, the like, right? Alien bodies, all of that, right? Saying that Dick Cheney is at the top of this UFO pyramid, right? The end all, right? The messiah of the UFO cover-up, right? And on top of that, Dick Cheney is responsible for killing this UFO-looking like craft, right? Back in 1990. But then an amateur photographer in 2014 captures images that look identical to this thing, right? Did it actually get canceled? Did Dick Cheney, having been read into the program, go back? And the reason he canceled that project is so they could work on this stuff secretly. I don't know. I'm throwing out a lot of conspiracies here and what ifs and connecting dots. I guess it's kind of what we do here, right? So I don't know. What do y'all think? I find this very interesting, these connections, right? Now, let's take a little bit more at what the story is behind this A-12 Avengers 2 aircraft, okay? I found a news segment from 1990 of this whole debacle, right? Take a look.
Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin tonight in Washington, where the Secretary of Defense has fired the admiral who was in charge of developing and deploying the Navy's stealth attack bomber. In this day and age, when the status of U.S. military equipment has taken on a whole new meaning, the admiral and his two senior aides have paid the price of not telling the boss, Defense Secretary Cheney, that the Navy's stealth program was way behind schedule and way over budget. Here's our Pentagon correspondent, Bob Zelnick.
The Navy's A-12 Avenger seemed to be a model program. There was broad support in Congress and the military for the carrier-based bomber with stealth technology. Last spring, Defense Secretary Cheney recommended buying more than 600 of the planes at a cost of more than $51 billion.
We think we ought to go forward with the A-12, that it's a good system, that the program appears to be reasonably well handled at this point.
But less than a month later, the plane's manufacturers, McDonnell Douglas and General Dynamics, admitted that the A-12 program was already a year behind schedule and at least $1 billion over budget. Last week, a naval inquiry reported that Cheney had been misled. The report said Vice Admiral Richard Gentz, head of the Navy's Air Systems Command, and two other program supervisors had been negligent in ignoring obvious problems with the A-12. Today, Navy Secretary Lawrence Garrett ordered Admiral Gentz to submit his resignation and sent formal letters of censure to his subordinates.
It's an issue of accountability. Our people grow up with that understanding from the time they put on the uniform.
The Navy report warns that poor oversight is common where officers serve as both salesmen and supervisors of weapons programs. Admiral Gentz and his colleagues probably received unusually harsh treatment because their actions embarrassed their boss, Dick Cheney. Bob Zelnick, ABC News at the Pentagon.
So it's possible that this project was just, defunded because of logistical reasons. But it's also possible that there's something more going on. Because remember, Grant Cameron asked Dick Cheney on a morning radio show, okay, back right before 2001, 9/11, right after being put into office, right, becoming vice president, Grant Cameron called into this morning radio show and asked Dick Cheney about the UFO program. And his answer was, let's just say, dubious. Take a listen.
All right, let's take a few calls here before you have to leave us at 20 before the hour. Let's first go to Winnipeg, Canada. Good morning, Grant. You're on the air.
Good morning. Mr. Cheney, I have a question. Since the statement made by George Bush last July, there's been a vicious rumor circulating in the UFO community that you've been read into the UFO program. So my question to you is, in any of your government jobs, have you ever been briefed on the subject of UFOs? And if you have, when was it and what were you told?
Well, if I had been briefed on that, I'm sure it was probably classified and I couldn't talk about it.
Is there investigation going on within this administration, Mr. Vice President, as to UFOs?
I have not come across the subject since I've been back in government, I guess since January 20th.
All right.
I've been in a lot of meetings, but I don't recall one on UFOs.
Okay, let's go to Jacksonville, Florida. Good morning, Hank. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, those answers seem very dubious to me, but hey, that's just me. Anyway, that and the other clip with Walter Kern is from a live stream that I did. I'll put a link in the description if you want to dive in further. There's a lot more to discuss there. So, I don't know. I found this Dick Cheney connection very interesting because he keeps coming up in the conversation, especially after being named as being at the top of this UFO pyramid. Now, David Grush has not confirmed nor denied that statement, but I seriously doubt Walter Kern is lying about that. He's a well-respected journalist and author and media personality, you know what I mean? So, but I find this interesting, right? Again, that for some reason this aircraft that looks like a UFO, right, is completely discarded. Another plane is chosen. Then Dick Cheney has clearly been read in on something, right? And then you see in 2014 this same looking craft that had been, quote unquote, the project had been canceled, right? By Dick Cheney, right? And Elon Musk just talking about, well, pilots and what they're seeing, that these are just advanced craft, right? Advanced was systems craft. So was it just that that craft was put on the back burner or behind the scenes black project covering up some sort of alien technology, reverse engineering technology, or it did just become this black budget project, right? We still made them, but secretly it's classified. I will say one thing that is interesting. You can go to the Fort Worth Aviation Museum and actually see the A-12 there, right? They have it on display. You can take pictures in front of it, right? And this was clearly a craft that was built, right? Clearly, you can see from this older footage and pictures that they were transporting it. They had made it. They were storing it in warehouses, right? Are these the older models? I don't know. But one thing I do know is Dick Cheney just somehow keeps coming back into the picture one way or another. And I find those pictures of this craft, this triangular craft with clearly some sort of, you know, trail behind it, right? It's something flying in the air. Is it this A-12 craft? Is it another craft? I don't know, but, you know. And this video may have been totally confusing. I don't know. So hopefully you learned something from it. But all I wanted to know is Dick Cheney. Why does he keep coming up? Why does he keep coming up? All right, y'all. Look, we'll see you guys on tomorrow's video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace!
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.